I had a 2-year contract at that time. Wanted obviously to do better. Still had the year left, but then I felt again my daughter was starting school, and the opportunity to come back up to Scotland at that time probably was a little bit more of a pull for me.
Was there a couple of options from Scotland? Obviously, you opted for St Mirren in the end, but what made you go for the Saints?
The reason probably signed for St Mirren was Brian Caldwell. Brian Caldwell was the chief exec at Ayr all those years back when I signed for Ayr, and I had a very good relationship with Brian as a friend, as much as anything else. And he was obviously then chief exec at St Mirren. So I say I'd kept in touch with him for those kind of 10 or so years that I was down south. Obviously used to speak to him kind of advice for different things around contracts and whatever else. And he kind of knew that I was maybe looking to come back up to Scotland. So it obviously then obviously Danny was the manager. So obviously must have mentioned to Danny, or whether he done it himself, as if to say obviously I'd like to say like Gary, and then put it to the manager, saying as if like that. So no, they'd offered me a good obviously contract to come back up the road, but it was more the fact as my daughter was starting school, and I didn't want to be as if a year here, a year there. I wanted more stability for them, and obviously us as a family. So she was obviously in starting primary one, and then kind of continuing through there. So yeah, no, that's why obviously I came back up to Scotland. I think there was like Motherwell and Hibs were kind of touted as options, but I never really kind of explored that or spoke to anybody from them. I just obviously had straight to Brian, and Brian did that, and obviously the relationship I had with Brian, and that's why I ended up at St Mirren. Really. You
knew there was more security in the deal with St Mirren because of your relationship?
Not in terms of like the security, just the fact is, yeah, and I stayed in, it was from kind of at that point before I moved down south from Mulgai, so it was obviously close by to Mulgai as well, coming over the Erskine Bridge. So it was very handy for that as well. But no, I say more like Brian in terms of the relationship I had with him, and the fact that Danny was obviously trying to grow St Mirren, and the way obviously when I spoke to him, the way he wanted to obviously try and go and play football. Tommy Craig had come in, and obviously I knew Tommy from under 21, the way he liked to try and play as well. So no, it was a good time in terms of the ambition of what the club was showing, because obviously he'd signed Tomo at that same point, earlier in this summer transfer window as well. So it showed you the ambition obviously the club were trying to obviously do going forward to try and achieve something.
And then Gary, the rest is history, to be honest with you. You know what I'm going to bring up next, don't you? I think a lot of St Mirren fans will be excited to hear your side of this. Talk us through the 2012-13 Cup run.
It's just, and the things that I'd achieved in football in regards to obviously promotion, playing with your national team, and I think back on it, yeah, I obviously achieved a hell of a lot more than probably what I expected when I was a young boy starting off or playing in the park. But then when I went to St Mirren, never in my wildest dreams did I ever think we would ever be playing in a cup final at a national stadium, and then even going one step further, actually winning that cup final. I say it was just an unbelievable achievement from the club. And to think the way we actually done it as well, to be fair, we started off ropey. I think it was Lee Mayer that scored. I think it was Hamilton, I think. Hamilton or Ayr, actually. He'd scored a really late goal to get us through to the next round. And then we went up to Aberdeen. Aberdeen went to penalties. But going up to Aberdeen and obviously getting a result in the Cup on a midweek night was obviously a fantastic result. Then you play Celtic in the semi-final at Hampden, thinking, yeah, obviously you go into a game thinking you're going to win, because you don't go into any game thinking you're going to, but realistically deep down you think Celtic turn it on, then obviously you're not going to win. But we went into that well prepared by Danny, obviously had a game plan, and again just that collective unit, that collective spirit, and that kind of desire to obviously go and do well. And we managed to go and beat Celtic, which even my interview after it, I was quite emotional, because I think you've went there and you've obviously managed to beat Celtic in a semi-final to get to the cup final. But then that
Gary, this was Gary, this was a team that had just beaten Barcelona.
No, I know, but it's just in regards to who it was anyway. It was like Celtic, because like Celtic and Rangers, say even like still, say realistically, they're miles ahead of everyone else. Yes, certain days and whatever else, teams can get close to them, which obviously we managed to do. But realistically, when it comes to these big games, these players are obviously, and I was fortunate enough, and Tom was fortunate enough, but I don't know how many other players were kind of fortunate enough to be playing in obviously those bigger games like that at the time. But I say in any given day, they're expected to obviously win the game. But say we again just that being well prepared by Danny, going in obviously as a collective unit, working hard, great bunch of lads. Say everybody working hard for each other. Then say we managed to pull it off. Just say fantastic. But then after it kind of sinks in, you think you've just beat Celtic in a final. You can't exactly go, and then obviously it transpired with Hearts. You can't exactly then go and get beat with Hearts. And obviously the final. So after, and I say whether not really spoke to anybody in terms of how they were feeling about it, but I actually felt myself as if there was more pressure getting into the Hearts game because of the fact that you beat Celtic, rather than thinking you're just going in to play Hearts and obviously a National Cup final, which in itself was obviously a huge achievement. But the fact that you beat Celtic, you couldn't kind of let yourself down to then, and say no disrespect to Hearts, but go and get beat with Hearts in the final. So, exactly. And again, even in the final, if say anybody who's at the game, they say obviously a fantastic result, but they say in terms of riding your luck, the game should have probably been put to bed in that first, 15 minutes or so. His Hearts just seemed to run, no matter what, they just seemed to obviously scored and then just seemed to run over the top of us, and it took us probably right up to probably when we scored the equaliser to then get back into the game. To get back, to get back into the game, and then also scored 2 quick fire goals, and then I think reasonably we were comfortable probably towards the end of the game. But that 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes of that game, then Hearts were so dominant, and again it probably just shows you that resilience. We managed to hang on in there until we got the equaliser, and then again by getting that equaliser just before half time gave us the confidence. Come out with quick fire goals, and I say the rest is history from there. And just what afterwards, just what an atmosphere, and just what much it meant to everybody. And I think probably the disbelief, but just the magnitude of the fact, obviously St Mirren coming from where we were to then going to win a National Cup final, say was probably up there with the best achievement, or certainly one of the best achievements in my career. Really,
could you say it was the best?
It probably could, in regards to, say, representing your national teams. Obviously good, getting promoted to the Premier League in England was huge, but when I put it into context in regards to at Wigan, yes, Wigan obviously the way it was, but we had an unbelievable squad, an unbelievable team, an unbelievable owner. So everything was kind of in place to, not saying expected to get promoted, because that's a silly thing to say, because there's never any expectations in football, but we certainly were geared up and we were kind of prepared for it. But do you actually think you're going to go and win a cup with St Mirren? Nah, never in a million years. So in terms of achievement and what we've done, it probably is up there with the best achievement, really.
And forget your Laudrups or Gazas and all that. Isma Goncalves, best player you've ever played with?
Isma would be so far removed from being the best player I ever played with that it's probably unreal. Isma I don't know what it was. He just obviously came in and he scored the goals. But in regards to every day at training or 9 times out of 10 every other game, no. Isma was certainly nowhere near in regards to the best player I've ever played with. He just seemed to have a knack of scoring goals in obviously reasonably big games, and kind of made himself a cult hero through the back of that. Great guy, really great guy, but in terms of a footballer, no, I wouldn't say Isma was up there with the best footballers I've played with, no.
So you obviously kept on with St Mirren and things happened, people left. You were obviously a veteran of the game, and next time came up the manager's position. Talk us through the way that kind of came about and why you accepted it, why you moved from a player to a player manager's role, and then obviously whatever happened after that.
It was a strange one in regards to that summer, because obviously you'd left, and then all of a sudden, because I get the only disappointment I have St Mirren again is probably not making the top 6. Because again, yes, we won the cup, and probably fans would obviously substitute that for making the top six. But like personally, I think with the squad and the players that we did have and what we managed to get, then I'd probably be a bit disappointed we didn't manage to kind of bridge that gap and make the top six. But as I say, I think most people would probably accept the fact that we won a cup gives you more joy than actually making the top six. So say you can obviously be excused for that one. But the fact is, when Danny left, which was massive shock to I think the majority of people in regards to obviously where we were, because I felt as if he was doing a good job, and then the fact that obviously Tommy took over, which was probably even a bigger shock, considering obviously Tommy was his assistant. So you would have thought if Danny went, then you'd have thought Tommy would have went with him. But for whatever reason, they never ever obviously found out how it obviously happened or whatever else. But then Tommy became the manager, and then I just did a phone call to say I would like to invite you to be a player coach, and obviously Jim the same, player coach. So yeah, it was just obviously that time. And when you look back at the stage of say my career that I was getting to, I had a couple of injuries and things like that as well. I'd started taking my badges with an eye on obviously hopefully getting into coaching, managing, which I say is never ever easy, but it's obviously this kind of natural progression, and obviously I enjoyed the game and that's what I wanted to try and do. So yeah, I felt as if, as you say, being in the twilight of your career, trying to think that next progression, yeah, player coach, because it still gives you the opportunity to try and play, but combining that with obviously a bit of coaching as well. So yeah, that was obviously the natural thinking of it. And again, behind the scenes, the club was obviously looking to try and get they were trying to sell the club. The owners at the time, obviously, Brian McCausland, Stuart Gilmore, and George Campbell. And the job that they had done for St Mirren with the new stadium and everything obviously they had done was just incredible. They say that nobody can ever fault anything that any of them have ever done. But at that time, they were obviously looking to try and sell the club. So then it starts making cutbacks. So obviously budgets are cut, players are leaving, and they're really bringing in probably the same quality. And the way things obviously transpired, that's just what happened. It was just probably a step too far in regards to trying to cut too fast, too soon. The quality that we brought in terms of the players we signed in that summer transfer window, yeah, probably obviously nowhere near what we had obviously had the previous seasons. And it was just a kind of, slippery slope. They say the snowball started going downhill and just obviously kept going. And they say it was so difficult to try and get out of that position. And then obviously Tommy had left his job. Tommy lost his job. And again, whether it was a shock or not, but then just obviously results kind of tell you that it was probably looking like that. But it was probably a bit of a shock when they said to me that they'd like me to take over. And again,
still don't know why they've done that.
You've been in there coaching and whatever else, and you felt as if, you could maybe obviously done something, but you then quickly realised how bad it actually was in regards to obviously investment into the team and obviously trying to move forward and different things. And say I was fortunate enough to have obviously a decent little bump in regards to obviously we had some decent results. Say we managed to win our first game at home as well, which is I think whatever day that was, because we still hadn't won at home. And we'd obviously another few results. Kenny McLean had obviously started playing Kenny a little bit further forward, playing up, and I think Kenny had scored like 5-6 goals from that December towards the end of January. Problem was, again, Ross County were spending money to bring in quality players. Motherwell just get bought over with Les Hutchison, we're bringing in quality players. But us on the other hand...
Even Thistle, when we came up, we had a strong core to the squad, which was... Thistle was around the same like size. Obviously we know Thistle was around the same size as St Mirren, but it was always that rivalry. I always felt playing against St Mirren it was quite an easy game because you were on a downturn, and it wasn't good to see because Thistle St Mirren was always a hard game, do you know?
No, it wasn't, but even like that one, because we went in January even after Kenny's goal, but we beat Thistle. We beat James Dayton had signed, and then we beat Thistle 1-0 at Firhill that night.
I remember that was a Friday night game, wasn't it?
Yeah, but say Thistle were obviously again strong, going in the upward trajectory, whereas obviously we were in the downward trajectory. But as I said, I always look back and you think the fact to say we sold Kenny to Aberdeen at that time sent out a huge signal to everybody to say Ross County and Motherwell were the two teams we were competing with in terms of relegation that year. And Ross County, as he always do, he's a fantastic owner. He always backs his managers and gives them money to spend to try and get out things with Roy McGregor. And Les Hutchison obviously came into Motherwell and gave them obviously the cash injection, and they were buying players. They were actually spending money and transfer fees for players, like bringing in Boy Marvin Johnson, bringing in who else did they bring in? I can't remember who else, but they brought in 3 or 4 players, actually paid transfer fees for them, whereas we sell our best player at that time to Aberdeen. So that basically sent out the message in terms of where we were going as a club. I say I've got unbelievable memory. I absolutely loved my time at St Mirren and a fantastic job.
But it just wasn't the right time, was it?
Wrong time. I say great job, wrong time, because everything was just obviously transpiring against us in regards to obviously what happened. So yeah, that's it. But when I look on my time there, even as manager, I don't think I got a chance to be a manager, if I'm honest with you, because they say there's no. People always say as if in terms of transfer windows, you get 3 transfer windows to get your team or the way you want to play. The squad needed a massive overhaul. You say obviously we were getting old in age, and we have to myself, Tomo, Jim, and whatever else.
And you just lost Kenny McLean, your best player, do you know?
That's it, and Kenny was there. John, obviously, McGinn was there to try and obviously build something round at that time as well. But a few of the younger players, like obviously Lewis Morgan came in, Stevie Mallon came in, Jason Naismith came in, Sean Kelly came in. So there was a good core that you were looking to obviously try and go and build with that. In terms of going forward, just getting a little bit more energy and kind of life and legs around the team. And I say, what win percentage for like the games, I say when you stack up against them, yeah, it was fairly reasonable, considering we were a massively struggling team. But I say managed to put a lot of these younger players and give them opportunities in the team at that time. And say I was just disappointed not to get the opportunity to take that forward. So I felt as if obviously could have, and I probably the way Jack Ross came in, it probably took till Jack Ross came in to obviously get it to probably the same kind of standard as what I was probably looking for in terms of obviously the players that brought in, just that youthful energy and different things about the team. So yeah, the team obviously struggled afterwards for like those 2 seasons, I think it was. In fact, they nearly went down again, didn't they? Yeah. Obviously, Ian Murray and Alec Ray, when they came in, they said we nearly went down again. And again, it was just until I think the new owners came in that obviously then when they brought Jack and gave him that kind of cash injection to try and obviously go and get the players they wanted and start obviously going back up the way rather than always looking down the way. So yeah, just circumstances. Absolutely fantastic club. Absolutely loved my time there. But say I just don't think I'd get an opportunity as kind of like the manager, just because of circumstances. But no, absolutely loved it.
You also had your time as manager there. It's been a while, Gary, but would you ever think about management again?
Yeah, you never say never. Regardless, I completed all like the badges in regard to doing right up to the pro license. But just obviously then, even getting that, it's like passing your test. You go and do what you have to do to obviously get it, but there's no substitute for experience. So getting out there in the grass, dealing with different levels of players, how you speak to different players, how you deal with different personalities, how you do that. That's the biggest learning curve in terms of obviously where you actually go as a manager. I feel as if I was to go back in, I'd certainly be a lot better equipped, even though I've not been kind of involved in the game, but just as kind of a person and kind of moving forward, then I feel as if I'd be a lot better position. But even at that, circumstances in terms of what the club is that you go into, in terms of where they're going or what they're trying to do, then that's a massive thing in terms of being a manager, really. So, yeah, you say never, but yeah, it probably been at the game probably a bit too long for it to happen again.
After St Mirren, you obviously you went and done your own thing. We'll go into that in a wee bit, your ventures at the moment. But did you ever have any opportunities? Were you ever approached about any other opportunities in management?
Just after St Mirren, actually, Sligo Rovers in Ireland. So I went over to them, had an interview for that. Again, that just kind of came out the blue. Somebody said, "Oh, do you fancy going obviously to Sligo?" So over there, had an interview with them, and I think it was guy David Robertson that they actually ended up giving the job to, who I think had some kind of, I think he played there as a player at one point as well. So obviously he had got that. And then I think, I think that, to be fair, I think that was probably it. in regards to obviously.
Solid
I think
offers.
maybe. Yeah, in terms of solid offers, like in terms of interviews, I'm going to do anything like that. But I say I probably didn't put myself out there to actually go and say as if that's what I was 100% obviously committed, as if that's what I wanted to do. So a bit of obviously kind of both at that time. Again, there's no substitute for experience. So if I maybe went in and obviously tried to do a little bit more coaching or tried to do a little bit more around staying in the game at that point, then yeah, circumstances might have been different. But no. I say in terms of solid offers or anything afterwards, nah, I say there was nothing.
Just to finish off before, we'll do a wee bit of question time. But before that, we'll talk about your Scotland career. Scotland at the moment, as you've seen last night, absolutely flying under Steve Clarke. I don't know if you know Steve Clarke, but many people have came across him. I've interviewed him a couple of times. His time at Kilmarnock, and what a guy he is. But talk about your time at Scotland, because obviously you came in. Was it 2004 you made your debut?
I think it was it run about that 2005 maybe. I think. I remember being in a squad, typical Scotland at this probably time, but it was Betty Vokes, and I got into the squad then, and it was Wales away, and we get beat 4-0, but I sat on the bench and didn't get on. Robert Earnshaw scored a hat-trick that night, and then, again, just with different circumstances, I think I'd get injured, couldn't make that squad, and then just kind of fell away, wasn't involved, and then I think it was 2000, it was our first season, so 2005. So whatever, it was the first season back in the Premier League. I remember getting a call. I was in the house and I got a call from Walter. Walter, rest in peace, because unbelievable manager, unbelievable person, and so sad that he's obviously passed away now. But obviously, I had a call from him saying I'd like you to be in the next squad. So I was just actually over the moon, ecstatic to be involved, especially coming from somebody with a pedigree, and obviously that presence of Walter. Once you're in the squad was just fantastic. And then again, just what probably the same in regards to obviously what Steve Clarke's done at the moment, just in terms of the squad and just pulling everybody together in one direction, setting up with a certain way. Obviously, we went about to try and play. Yes, probably wasn't as pleasing or as easy on the eye as what it is at the moment. But yeah, we managed to get some unbelievable results. But unfortunately, again, it seemed to be typical Scotland fashion at that time. We do so well. We beat, obviously, France home and away, and yet we still managed to transpire against us or against ourselves, and we still don't manage to qualify. So, yeah, let's say it was just unbelievable to be involved at that time as well, and just obviously to get so close, but the usual heartbreak that we just done, obviously managed to get it over the line. But no, again, from a young kid to go and represent your country was just, it was an amazing achievement for myself personally.
Obviously, you talk about the heartbreak. Before we talk about the heartbreak, we'll talk about beating France, because world champions, you know, it doesn't get better than that, does it?
No, and I say, when you look at that group, when you had that France and Italy, World Cup champions, obviously World Cup finalists, you had Ukraine, who were obviously quarter finalists in the World Cup at that time as well. So it was such an unbelievably difficult group. And we gave ourselves such an unbelievable, obviously, opportunity to try and progress out it with getting that result. And again, rode our luck, but again, just through that sheer kind of grit, resilience, being organised, knowing everybody knew their roles, responsibilities for that game and what their jobs were, managed to ride their luck, which obviously when you're playing against world-class players like that, World Cup winners, then you have to do that. But to go and win that, and that was probably, in terms of the noise, playing in a game of football at that time is probably the noisiest, the atmosphere that I've ever played in. And you can't hear yourself. They say when managers shout on instructions half the time at the side of the pitch, they say, I don't know what the point is, because 9 times out of 10 you can't hear anything if you're on the other side of the field anyway, or even when you're next to them, because of the noise with the atmosphere the majority of the games. But for that game was just, the noise levels was just kind of on another level, really. It was just incredible. And I remember it as well because my daughter Amy had just been born, so she was still kind of in her car seat, and my wife had brought her along to the game. and for whatever reason, even with that noise, she had managed to sleep through the whole game. So as much as obviously the result and being involved, whatever else, that's probably a big thing. How she managed to sleep through that whole game, I do not know. But you see, when you look back again, I always keep saying as if you look back, but when you do look back and reflect, the fact you were involved when Scotland beat France 1-0, World Cup winners. So yeah, unofficial world champions for a day.
And then the video of Gary Caldwell's goal. Gary, I think you might be aware, you're getting a wee bit of stick on social media with that haircut. Talk us through it.
To be fair, I probably can't remember it in regards to what I was trying or what I wasn't trying with it. I don't know. I must have seen it somewhere and I thought, that looked quite good. I'll go with that. Or maybe I didn't. Maybe I just thought, that looks quite good. I'll try and go with that. So no, it's probably an absolute shocker, as everybody says. But you see, you learn through good and bad experiences. What looks good, what doesn't look good, and obviously that was a time. So yeah, wasn't really acceptable, was it?
David Beckham, obviously, I don't know if you heard the story. He tried it, so Alex Ferguson told him to go in the changing room and shut it off.
I know. So mine's probably didn't last that long either. Yeah, nah. Everybody's allowed a bad hair day.
So what wasn't that bad then? Didn't he make you went to the dressing room and shave it off?
No. I don't think when the fact that you were there and you weren't really, he probably wasn't seeing you on a daily basis. Maybe if he was seeing you on a daily basis, then it might have been different. But I say just unbelievable manager in terms of his presence and obviously just getting the team to play a certain way, and tactically everybody obviously know their jobs. When you're coming up against that level of player, yeah, just an incredible man, incredible manager, and I say obviously his success, don't need me to say it, his success, obviously everything that kind of followed him wherever he went. So yeah, a great time really.
Rest in peace, Walter. Yeah, definitely a wonderful, probably one of the greatest servants Scottish football's ever had.
100%.
Definitely dearly missed. You seen it with the reaction after his death. I mean,
yeah,
everybody in Scotland was grieving at the time. Do you know?
Yeah. No, that's it. Then I think similar. I think when obviously Tommy Burns passed away as well, it kind of transcended that kind of rivalry and that kind of everything else that goes along with Rangers and Celtic. I think both of them are respected on both sides for what they are and the people that they actually were. So yeah, and I think that kind of showed when he passed away. So yeah, I say an incredible, obviously human being, was a person first and foremost, and then obviously as a manager.
Yep. So moving on, I've got a couple of questions I want to ask you. So earlier today, I put out on Twitter that I was going to be interviewing the mighty, the bold Gary Teale. So I had a few responses, couple of questions. It's not quite interviewing Joe Hart or Steven Gerrard, so we can keep this one calm, all right? It's not too professional. But the first one was favourite goal or favourite moment in your career?
Moment, I think we've already kind of covered that earlier in regards to, was probably winning with St Mirren. There is obviously close by in regards to making your Scotland debut as a kid, because to go and represent your country is obviously an unbelievable kind of personal achievement, to go and obviously do that, getting promoted with Wigan and certain games like that. But as I say, the context of round St Mirren, winning obviously the League Cup when it was never ever really expected, then yeah, that was probably, when I think back now in my career, yeah, probably obviously my favourite moment.
Favourite goal?
Favourite goal?
You scored
as many as didn't really score as many as what I would have liked, but I would probably say for Wigan, we played Ipswich. We were live on the TV, and again, we get man of the match that game. Everything just kind of seemed to click for me that night. We won 3-1, and I managed, the ball broke to the edge of the box, hit it kind of outside of the foot, went in off the underside of the bar. So yeah, probably Wigan versus Ipswich.
Yep. I don't know if you know Brian Welsh, the media officer at Pt.3.
I do, very well, yes. Is that where Welsh is now? If you speak to him, tell him I was asking for him the last time he was working at Frame, the agency, so yes.
I will be laughing watching this. So Welshie, Helensburgh Wanderer, he asks, what are your memories of Clevedon Secondary School trip to Euro Disney in 1996, and why were the resort police so lenient?
I don't know, actually. that's obviously putting it away back in regards to obviously what that was. No, unfortunately, I'm sorry, Welsh, I can't recall. The memory banks went blank for that one, so
He says asking for a
apologise.
friend.
I've not got an answer to that.
Oh, unfortunate. Unlucky, Welshie. Another one. Yeah, I'll fill you a few. Gordy, Thistle fan, is asking,
Yep.
Gary, is it true you grew up a Jags fan?
My first, well, it wasn't really my first, but I used to go, because obviously I stayed in Summerston, then a lot of the games I used to go to were Thistle games. But if I'm honest with you, I was always a Rangers fan. That was, it was always from younger age. I was always a Rangers fan. First game was Rangers Aberdeen in the Skull Cup. My dad took me along, but instead of going to obviously Ibrox every week and kind of what different things obviously go on when you go to like Rangers Celtic games or whatever. So yeah, the majority of games I went to as kind of teenager was I went along to Firhill, which I say I loved it. So I did.
Were you ever close to signing for this?
I wasn't say I was a Jags fan, and again it's very another strange story, because my dad, to say he was involved in youth football, he was then kind of taking the youth or kind of assistant for the youth team, under 18s, running about under 18s youth cup level. So my dad was involved with Thistle then, used to go along, watch them, used to go to training with them. Not involved in the training with them, but again, never. And it was the same as St Mirren. He was at St Mirren as well, doing that, and used to go along like the youth sessions and say sometimes you join in, sometimes I'll just be at the side of the park. So I was always there, whether it be at Firhill or whether it be at Love Street, in regards, because my dad was involved, but for whatever reason, and even the guys at the Muncie, I've got no idea how the fact that you never ever signed for St Mirren for the amount of time I was actually around the place as a young kid. But as I say, circumstances at the time and different things and whatever else. So yeah, I wouldn't say I was ever close to signing them, but when you're saying close to proximity, yes, I was obviously run about the different places, but yeah, never obviously managed to sign for them.
Never signed for Thistle, unfortunate. I could have been seeing you week in, week out, Gary.
No, that would have been good considering you weren't even born. So yeah, that would have been good.
Hey, and then I'll show you a photo later, but there's somebody's actually, I don't know if you can see this, somebody actually dressed up as you for Halloween. Lewis, you see it here. It says Teale 21 on it.
Yes.
Dressed up as you for Halloween. What do you think?
Is that an actual strip they've got on, or have they made that as well?
Teale on the back of it.
So it is actually my strip then, is it?
So it's Lewis HTR 17. You might be able to give him a follow on Twitter if you're up for it.
Yeah. So, but as I'm saying, is it my chop that obviously I must have given to someone and then he put it on? Yeah. Fair play him, man.
Brilliant.
For everything else that you can go and dress up with, he's decided to go and dress up with me. So,
Gary Teale, man, Jesus.
Fair play him.
Well, you need your head checked.
That is obviously taking it to a different level if you're dressing up with me at Halloween.
But don't know that's a good thing and a bad thing, Gary. You can.
That's what I mean. No, I know. I wouldn't say that's a good thing, but yeah.
Aye. Alan is asking, last but not least, what is it you're up to now? I think it's time you can probably move on and explain Hexagon, as we talked about at the start of the show.
Yeah. So Hexagon is kind of a mobile football arena. So it's like a 23 square metre hexagon. So it's in a hexagon shape. And it's kind of interactive. What we try and encourage is and at the beginning of it, it was obviously developed around playing football, but again, it's moved kind of like a multi-games arena, and it's fully accessible for wheelchairs because obviously the makeup of it. So since I stopped playing, when I left St Mirren, I've been involved in kind of the development of that. There's a lot of R&D went into it. There was opportunities. First of all, I travelled out to China because there was potential opportunity for that. So I was back and forward with that for a couple of years as well, again through the development of it, looking to try and partner with guys out there. So yes, we're still doing that. obviously COVID over the last 2 years kind of put paid to that in terms of obviously working on that, which was obviously disappointing because it built up obviously some decent kind of contacts and leads with it. But no, hopefully now we're starting to obviously to kind of get back up on our feet with it. Kilmarnock, for instance, are one of our partners and they're phenomenal. They take it into the community. They do a lot of stuff around the grassroots stuff. They take it into school with the coaches in the community, and they have loads of different events around it. So I say it helps engage. It's something that's different for like the kids to come along. Everything's hooked up with your, whether it be your iPhone or your iOS. You record every player that plays, so we know in terms of obviously their times. There's 5 different games within that to go and challenge themselves, which keeps obviously coming back, because when you're playing against the clock like that, you go and obviously challenge yourself time wise, or obviously you can challenge your peers, or you can challenge obviously as a family, because it's fully obviously inclusive for everyone, just for a bit of fun if you want to make it fun, or if you want to take it seriously, working obviously in your peripheral vision, working obviously in your first touch in smaller condensed areas. So yeah, there's a lot obviously behind that, so we take it seriously in terms of trying to work with the professional side of things, or obviously a little bit of fun, something to keep everybody engaged. We say we do a lot of events around it as well, where we take it along to the fan zones, and fans obviously come around. So now we're hoping to get kind of back up on our feet after COVID. But I say no, it's interesting, and I've enjoyed my time with it.
Definitely. In my time with Hexago, Gary's obviously been nice enough to let my face help out with Hexago, but served the likes of Billy Gilmore, Johnny Hayes, Richie Foran, Jack Hendry, do you know? So It's not as if it's a game where people are kind of, I don't know whether you want to play. It's a fun game, isn't it, Gary?
No, as that's what I said, there's a bit of fun behind it, and there's obviously a bit of serious behind it. We feel as if
competitiveness, isn't there?
It covers both. It's not kind of that's it. It's if you want to challenge yourself in regards to obviously kind of that professional environment where you think obviously how good you are, how can you receive the ball left, right, foot. But again, looking because of the different lights, you're coming on to challenge yourself. What is your peripheral vision? And can you play, obviously get your body shape right, so obviously you can adjust quickly when the ball comes back off the balls to hit the next light. So, but on the other side, obviously there's a bit of fun, and as you say, it was obviously fantastic to have you as one of our operators when we had it in Braehead, and the fact you say you named the players that came in and obviously had a go at it. It would have been better considering what you're doing now if you had a wee bit of foresight in terms of what your marketing could have been. We're getting pictures and then posting that for Hexagon, but yeah, you weren't that clever.
I had an Android at that time, so I was taking no photos.
I mean, you weren't that clever at that point. So yeah, no, as I say, it's hopefully now again after COVID, and I say not just us, but I say a lot of people obviously across the world that COVID's affected. Unfortunately, obviously the many deaths that we had, but hopefully now see get a little bit of normality and things begin to start opening up. Certainly, probably into 2022 now. So yeah, no, it's been challenging. There's been ups, there's been downs, and let's say, but just hopefully, yeah, we can start to see a wee bit of a recovery and some green shoots for us into 2022.
Yep, Billy Gilmore's still the only player that I've seen being able to do a rainbow flick in that cage. So it's like a UFC. It's like a UFC cage. It's got a roof on it, right? And it's all padded, so it's all safe. It's all properly padded. It's not an actual cage. It's got netting instead. And the roof is got netting on it, right? Gary, you know how like.
And the roof is probably
high, you know,
7 foot high. I think the roof is.
Billy Gilmore was on his pal, and he managed. I don't think I've even told you this. Robert knows about it.
Yeah.
And he done a rainbow flick without it touching the net. Done it over his pal's head, who is 6 foot, and it came over, landed first time, finished it, hit off the target, won the game. And to this day, he's the only person that I probably will ever see do it, and you will ever see it.
Yeah.
And this is his time when he was at just starting off at Chelsea, do you know? So what a player.
But it doesn't really surprise you. Let's be honest, when you see obviously the ability that he's got, he just looks a fantastic, accomplished, technically gifted player in regards to what he does. So yeah. But as I said before, Blair, if you'd have managed to get that a wee bit on social media for us, it might have helped us.
Gary, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for joining you. it's what an hour it's been. I've learned so much about you anyway. First of all, you're not a defender.
No, exactly. For all that research,
I was only joking about that. But Gary, thank you very much for joining me. If there's anything else you'd like to ask Gary, you can drop it in the comments down below, and I'll be more than happy to ask him, pester him again. But
yeah,
if you want to check out Hexago, as Gary just spoke about, I'll leave the link for that down below for the website, so you can check out Hexago. It's available to rent and buy out fully, isn't it, Gary? You'll find it. You'll find it in fan zones. So you've got, it was in the Rangers fan zone, Scotland fan zone.
Yeah,
Celtic,
Rangers, Celtic, yeah.
So you would have seen it anywhere.
Yeah.
Most of you would have seen it anywhere. So if you want to check that out, see what you can do. I'll leave Gary's details down below. Not his phone number, because you'll be pestering him. Leave his email address, whatever, down below. The website down below, so you can get in contact. And until then, it's a goodbye from me.